Welcome to the NFL playoffs, or as us Cowboys fans like to call it, the offseason. The very typical offseason that we tend to have very early on, starting in January. And I am here for all of you to hear me once again cry and cry and cry about the status of the Cowboys franchise. It came out a couple weeks ago while Mike McCarthy was technically still under contract that the Bears had requested permission to interview him for the head coaching job. Why? Because he wasn't completely under contract for the next year. So uh, the Bears, rightfully so, wanted to start their search early. And the Cowboys, or nay, let me correct myself. Jerry Jones denied the Chicago Bears the opportunity to interview Mike McCarthy. Why? Because he was still under contract. And then, a couple days later, 48 hours ago, if I'm not mistracking my time, Mike McCarthy and Jerry Jones decided to mutually part ways from the head coaching position after their discussions broke down when they couldn't agree to a long-term contract. Now, I have a few things to discuss about this. Number one, these mutually parting ways, I think, is the right move for Mike McCarthy because I have a feeling Jerry Jones wanted to put him on another very, very, very short leash in the shape of 2 to 3 year contract when a head coach deserves some stability. And I'm pretty sure Mike McCarthy finally came out and said, you know what? No, if I haven't proven myself in 5 years enough for you to want me here for another at least 5 years, then there's no point in having this conversation. So to save face, they agreed to mutually part ways. But that is the gripe that I want to have about the current status of the Dallas Cowboys. You know your franchise is not a serious franchise whenever you're simply denying the opportunity for another team to interview your coach out of straight up pettiness. Once again, JB and I have sat here and talked about how the Dallas Cowboys are run as an entertainment, not as a sports franchise, but as an entertainment business. And this is another example of that epitomizing itself in true fashion once again. And now, in the Cowboys offseason, they have decided to call Deion Sanders, the person that they've linked to since last year's offseason. Jerry Jones decided to call Deion Sanders and have a very quote unquote serious conversation about the opportunity for him to come over to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Don't get me wrong. I can't take anything away from what Deion Sanders has done for the college football programs that he's put his hands on. And like everywhere else, Deion Sanders, anything that he touches, he's succeeded at. So I understand the intrigue behind that conversation to have him as a head coach. That being said, is Jerry Jones really willing to bring in somebody that is going to even slightly steal a little bit of the spotlight that he has a stronghold on? Because you know that with Deion Sanders, prime time himself, comes the spotlight that a prime time personality deserves. Can Jerry Jones handle that? Well, apparently, from the conversations that came out of that, it seems like no, he can't handle that because Deion Sanders is now staying with Colorado, or as of right now, staying with Colorado. And let me guess, they mutually decided it was not in the best interest for Deion Sanders to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. So here we are, the head coaching job for the Dallas Cowboys in shambles, with them currently requesting to hire or interview Kellen Moore as a head coach, the offensive coordinator that you told is probably a good idea for you to go look for a job somewhere else when he was your offensive coordinator. 2 years later, now he's good enough for you, Jerry Jones. In the sake of For the sake of Kellen Moore's career, I hope he doesn't take that job because I don't think he can handle the pressure of having that type of uh, overshadowing personality over him. But if he wasn't good 2 years ago, was it really the fact that he has the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs once again in a dominating offensive fashion? Is that really what sold it for you, Jerry Jones? My final point, the final point that I want to make about this Cowboys drama in the offseason, for those of you that haven't heard, it's because nothing has been happening with that position. Why? Probably because not many people are jumping on board to want to get that job. We are currently at Mike McCarthy had conversations with them, and Kellen Moore is set up to come interview with them. Two people are in the books to potentially have been in this discussion for the head coaching job. Oh, wait. Let me add my final touch to this. You know who did decide to accept a last second interview with that head coaching position? The man that got fired for being the scapegoat for the New York Aaron Rodgers franchise. Robert Saleh has agreed to take an interview with the Dallas Cowboys and tell me how desperate an organization has to be for you to bring in the coach that was a laying duck and having the quarterback call all his shots for his entire team come and interview for your position. JB, we are back with another episode of Box Scores and Bourbon, and I'm going to get off my soapbox to talk about football because we have college football once again. We have the national championship on the horizon, and we have the divisional round of the NFL playoffs. Buckle up, everyone. We have yet again another long weekend on a Thursday night, another episode of your Box Scores and Bourbon.
Look at the box scores.
Box Scores
and Bourbon.
We check each other's box scores and scores online.
Baseball, box scores.
So football, baseball, basketball, soccer, hockey.
Box Scores and Bourbon.
Tell me, JB, as you unmute your mic, what you think about the current status of the NFL franchise that is the Dallas Cowboys.
That was a lot of words. There's so many words. I was. Before we get started, let's cheers in.
Cheers.
Clink, clink, clink. I myself was looking forward to the spectacle that was going to be the Primetime and Jerry Jones collab of downtown Dallas, which I think was going to be the new name of the Cowboys. In 2036, you would have had the star in the middle of the field, nicknamed Primetime. And the end zone would have been spray painted with Primetime. Shador would have been parachuted down from Jerry Jones' helicopter before every home game. And while Deion just walked down the bleachers with his glasses on, allowing people to touch him as if he was the modern day Jesus and greatness was going to come from him. I'm sad that this is not happening. It was Jim Rome that said that this just feels right for all the wrong reasons, but it just feels right. And I am very, very. I've never been more upset at two men's egos than I am now because they have robbed me of the joy of watching an entire NFL franchise just crumble to the ground. And quite honestly, you know who hates this the most? It's Woody Johnson, because Woody Johnson would have looked like a genius, especially now if they hire Robert Saleh and he does nothing in Dallas. And Woody's like, told you, his Madden score as a coach wasn't high enough. I should have never hired him in the first place. So I honestly, I'm not a Cowboy fan, but you are, and like you said, if you're a Cowboy fan, you're looking at this, you're like, I'd be upset at this, but this is par for the course now. This is Jerry Jones. Everyone started their head coaching searches 9 days earlier, and he's like, I'm just going to hold on to this big fat teddy bear until I get a sense from Deion that we can move forward. Oh, we can move forward. Mike, you're gone. Oh, no. What, Deion? You don't want to move forward. So now you're stuck with Robert Saleh. Now you're stuck with trying to line up people who weren't even supposed to have head coaching interviews or who don't even, haven't even earned the right to be interviewed as a head coach. especially after the display he had in New York, and so it's or I should say New Jersey, but
Right.
my condolences to Cowboy fans.
Oh,
No
thanks,
one's
JB.
died, unfortunately. I know Jerry Jones one day will die, maybe, hopefully soon
He's
for
ditched
a
all
Cowboy
his soul to
fan.
the devil.
And and then you guys can hold a parade in his
You know
honor.
what? The silver lining that I find that I came across recently, and I am an individual that looks for silver linings and tries my best to look at the positive in everything, or at least find a positive something to latch onto. There was a take that came across my feed, and what it was, this is probably Jerry Jones's last head coaching hire before he either has to retire or to not be too not making it too dark before he passes away. He's 82 going on 83. So this very easily could be his last head coaching hire. And without wishing harm or foul onto anybody, gosh, I hope that's the case. I hope this hire is the last hire for Jerry Jones as the Dallas Cowboys. What is he? President of operations, general manager, owner, whatever, director of personnel, soon to be head coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Maybe that's what it'll be. He'll hire himself as the head coach.
Maybe, I don't know. But I think you're right. This is going to be fingers crossed. His last
Yeah.
head coaching hire. He's probably only thrown out 3-year contracts because he's like, I'm not going to see the end of a 2-year contract. Let's gamble and make it 3. Who knows? He might have the Angels at the Victoria's Secret shop, run the team. I don't know. But it's honestly like there's only 32 of these jobs. There's only 32 of these positions in the whole world to be called an NFL head coach. And there's going to be somebody out there who's going to want to take it. And there's going to be somebody out there who's going to want it. If I'm Robert Saleh and I'm like, hey, you offer me this? Yes. Yeah. You say dance, I say how high. And that's it. Yeah. And so it's I don't see anyone I don't see a reputable gain in this position because of the toxicity of Jerry Jones, and not because it's a toxicity because he's an idiot and has no idea how to run a football franchise, just like the Jets. Woody Johnson, no one wants to work for Woody Johnson either. So this is going to be an interesting coaching hire. We'll see where this heads.
Robert Saleh and Jerry Jones working together just seem like the match made in hell. And that is right now what the Cowboys franchise deserves. Let's be honest. But enough about a franchise that's not even in the conversation as we're talking playoffs and championships. Let's talk about the teams that actually matter.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's start by hitting the biggest of the stages in college football, the national championship. JB, You didn't have to eat crow on one side of your bracket, but we both ate crow when we doubted Notre Dame.
We did. We did.
What? 2 games, 2 completely different type of games. One of them kind of expected, that being the Ohio State-Texas game. We kind of I made sure to latch my pinky onto the wagon before it got too far away from me, and I jumped onto the Ohio State wagon. And it went exactly how we figured it was going to go. But the Penn State Notre Dame game was one that I will remember for quite a while, and not because it was such a fireworks of games, but because it is consistently a reminder that no matter how good of a game a team can play, one mistake can completely lose you that game. Penn State played a great game with very minimal, if not zero mistakes, besides that one interception at the end of the 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter to really lose that game with one play. It sucks for Penn State because they played such a good game. They had such a strong CFP appearance, but at the same time, we have to give kudos to Notre Dame. I don't know where this defense came from, but this defense that they've been putting out for the playoffs is something that was being underappreciated on my side.
Yeah, no. The Penn State played an extremely sound football game all the way around through the first half, and probably even through the middle of the third quarter.
Hmm.
When you and I said this before the game happened, I said the big reason Notre Dame was able to escape Georgia was because Georgia abandoned the running game too soon. They just completely abandoned it, and
Hmm.
Georgia decided to put the game on the shoulders of a talented but young, inexperienced quarterback. And
Yeah.
when you go to Penn State, and I know Drew Aller is on the opposite end of the spectrum when it comes to experience than Gunnar Stockton, but Drew Aller did not match up well against that Notre Dame defense in the sense that Al Golden, who comes up with these beautiful schemes, that delayed blitz that sealed the game for the Irish. That wasn't a bad pass by Aller, but what happens is, and I said it, was that Drew Aller's biggest weakness and the biggest question mark for him going if he declared for the draft, which is why I believe he's gonna commit to stay at Penn State for his last season, is these accuracy issues. Now, like I
Hmm.
said, it's not his decision making. That was a good decision, but when he is under pressure and he is not and he is placed in an uncomfortable position, then he is going to be inaccurate. And it should never have gotten there in the first place because Allen and Singleton were running all over that Irish defense in the first half. 141 yards on the ground. And then you come into the second half and it's like James Franklin just completely abandoned it. Like this Penn State offense just decided, oh well, we're just going to switch it up a bit. I don't know why. I don't know why you decided to do that, especially when Notre Dame's strengths, like I said, have been with have been with attacking the quarterback, getting at the quarterback. This and I'll paint the picture with Ohio State. Texas has a much greater defense than Notre Dame does. They have pieces all the way around. This is a stout defense. And it'll be exciting to see what happens next year with Sark. I think this is year 5 with Texas next season. But what Ohio State was able to do against this stout Texas defense, I'm not saying that the Irish don't stand a chance against Ohio State. They do. It's football. It's sport. There's always chances. Even the favorite gladiator got ripped up by the lion every once in a while. But it's being able to sit there and look and say, okay, will the Irish love to blitz? And I think this is where Al Golden is gonna throw a scheme in order to try to get Will Howard uncomfortable. The difference is that with Ohio State, they've got weapons for days. Will Howard can throw it to anybody. And, Jeremiah Smith is 18. If it wasn't for a human named Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith would get even more recognition. Abuka is arguably the most underrated receiver in college football. I love Luther Burden. I love Totoya from Arizona. But Abuka is just phenomenal. You throw the ball up, he will come down with it. Contested, uncontested, doesn't matter. He's going to come down with the ball. And I think that's where Ohio State is going to be able to have victory because what Ryan Day has allowed Chip Kelly to do is he has allowed Chip Kelly to run that offense. And so
Hmm.
if for some reason the passing game's not there, Ohio State has figured out their identity is you go vertical to open up the ground game. If we want to run the ball, if Trevion wants to run the ball, then we need to go vertical, open up those lanes, have Notre Dame not have that run lane integrity, and see Trevion just knock out 5-6 yard chunks every time. So if I'm going to say it again, if this is going to come down to a team who is not going to abandon its identity. Because we know Notre Dame cannot keep up with the offensive weapons Ohio State has. So this is really going to come down to how disciplined is Notre Dame's defense going to be? Are they going to have run lane discipline in order to stop Trevion and just make Will Howard and that Chip Kelly offense make it as one-dimensional as possible, which will be difficult because there's weapons all over. But that is Notre Dame's key in order to, if they are going to beat Ohio State, which I do not believe they will, but if they have a chance, their chance is going to rely on how disciplined is that front seven going to be. How disciplined are they going to be?
Yeah, I think that's the point that I wanted to make with this matchup upcoming. Notre Dame, as much as we're talking about Ohio State's offense, Notre Dame's defense has really stepped up to the plate throughout the previous three games that they've played. My concern or my question is, your offense has only done just enough for your defense to be able to keep you in the game. If it turns into an offensive game and it starts becoming where the defense is not necessarily as impactful as what your offense does, can that offense keep up? My gut tells me, looking at how Ohio State has been playing, my gut tells me no. So if Notre Dame can keep it a low-scoring game, that's when they'll have a chance. But if it starts getting out of hand and they start having to rely on their offense, it's going to be hard for Notre Dame to stay into that game. I'm hoping it doesn't turn into a blowout in the same way that Ohio State has treated every other team that they've played in these playoffs. Mm-hmm. But it's very likely that it can, like you just said, if their defense starts to break a little bit, if they're not disciplined, it can very easily get out of hand very quickly. And what will that look like for the Notre Dame offense when you start having to ask them, hey, I need you to come back from 14 points, 10 points in the second half and score points in a hurry because we're falling behind, because you're not going to consistently stop the Ohio State offense. That is, you'd be a fool to bank on, we'll just shut that offense down. But what are you going to do on the other side to keep up with that type of offense if your defense is consistently getting sliced up? That's the concern that I have.
Yeah, and Ohio State, so if you remember in that Notre Dame-Penn State game, Notre Dame experienced their largest deficit of any game all season long when they were down by 10 in the first half.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Ohio State, that offense and that defense, that Jim Knowles-led defense with Cody Simon on the field, and it is such a dominant defense, and has only gotten better since that Indiana game. They have only gotten better throughout the season, even including the playoffs. That Ohio State defense has the ability to put points on the board. Jack Sawyer, ended up sacking, doing a strip sack against his old former roommate, because many people don't remember Quinn Ewers started at Ohio State. And so Jack Sawyer's coming in there, strip sacking Quinn Ewers, running it back for a touchdown. This defense has the ability to put points on the board. And I'm not going to sit here and say there's no absolutes in life except death and, sometimes taxes, unless you're Wesley Snipes. But but Ohio State if there's ever a guarantee that I'm going to make on this pod, it's going to be Ohio State's going to win this game. It's hard for me to fathom Notre Dame doing enough. I'm not saying they can't. It's hard for me to fathom that Notre Dame's going to have to do everything perfect. Notre Dame's going to have to play Ohio State like Michigan played Ohio State. But that's all contingent on if Ohio State's going to abandon their identity. And they have found the formula that works. Ohio State have not played in these playoffs the way they played against Michigan. Ohio State tried to beat. They played down to Michigan. They tried to mirror what Michigan was doing. If Ohio State reverts back and tries to play like they played against Michigan, if they try to mirror and mimic Notre Dame, yes, Ohio State will very likely lose this game. I just don't see it happening. Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, these have been fireworks of offensive display. And and that Texas game was a firework of defensive prowess. And so this is not going to be something where I think Ryan Day all of a sudden says, you know what? I really like our game plan against Michigan. Didn't we lose, Coach? We did, but we had an A for effort, and I love the moral victories more than the actual rings. I just don't see it happening. I don't see it happening.
No, you're right. I mean, ultimately, it comes down to the fact that it really is Ohio State's game to lose, based off of everything that we've seen, based off of the resume that they've put on, especially after the Michigan game. It is their game to lose based off of the entire play style that they've presented, especially in the playoffs. All regular season, they've been dominant. Their offense was sputtery at moments, but ultimately, it is their game to lose. My question to you, JB, and you know I love bringing up random questions to you. There is still some fans that say, even if you win the national championship, you still lost to Michigan. To those fans, what answer would you give them if the scenarios was put in front of them? Well, which one would you rather have? Going 1-11 and your win being against Michigan, or 11-1 with the national championship, but you lost to Michigan?
I'll even put it this way. Would you rather beat Michigan, win the Big Ten, make the playoffs, or lose to Michigan, make the playoffs, and win the national championship? I'd rather win the national championship. How many years has Alabama? No one ever questioned Nick Saban for the years that he would lose these unfathomable games. He would lose in the regular season and go in a 4-team playoff format and just absolutely dominate. No one ever questioned it, but that's also because Ryan Day had just as much as Nick Saban has earned the accolades and the tributes from the thousands and upon thousands of college football fans, even fans who aren't even a fan of Alabama. Ryan Day has just as much earned this vileness from Ohio State fans. And I'm here to tell you, yes, it is absolutely earned, Ohio State fans. It is. But at some point, you're going to have to, cut bait and let go, okay? Sometimes the woman doesn't want to be with you anymore, and you're going to have to say, okay, great. I'm going to live my life with someone who wants to be with me, okay? But Ryan Day's not going anywhere. He's going nowhere. If anything, the output of what has happened in here in these college football playoffs has nothing but cemented Ryan Day's stature within the Ohio State clubhouse and with the AD and with those in charge. Yeah. Ryan Day's not going anywhere. And so you best get on the bus, okay? You want to get somewhere, then get on the bus. You don't want to go anywhere, stop going to the bus station, okay? Just quit it. Now you're just wasting gas. Now you're just wasting energy, not getting on the bus because the bus driver didn't like the way you put the nickel in the jar last time, okay? Just accept the fact that this is your coach. But you also have to accept the fact at the same time, this is the same coach who has let go and has let Chip Kelly do what Chip Kelly's going to do. And Ryan Day has figured it out, and just let the man cook. You win the national championship. Quit the complaining. Stop. You won. Okay? You have won the lottery. Ohio State has won the championship. Let it go. Just let it go.
Yeah, that would be my message to those fans too. And I don't think the general fan base necessarily latches on to, well, we care more about the win against Michigan than a national championship. But for those people that do, because there are some crazy people that care more about that, get over it. You play a season not to beat Michigan. If that were the case, you could downgrade to a D3 school and just play Michigan once a year, and then that would be your season. Your goal is to win a national championship, no matter how pretty or how ugly that is. If you win a national championship, mission success. That is all that you watch football for. You watch every sport for. You don't watch every sport to see what a regular season matchup looks like. You watch every sport, especially football, want your team
Yeah.
to get to the highest level, which is a championship, and
Yeah.
ultimately raise the trophy as a champion. It's that simple. For
Yeah.
those fans that can't see that,
Mhm.
maybe don't stick to fans. Maybe go do
Yeah.
crossword puzzles at Sudokus. Maybe that's something that you can latch onto
Yeah.
as your go-to.
Yeah. Leave the moral victory conversation to the Michigan fans who can sit there and say, we beat Ohio State and Alabama in the same season. Did you go to the playoff? No, we didn't go. We weren't good enough. Okay, leave the moral victory conversation to those fans. You're in the Natty. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
You know what I'm going to do? I am going to enjoy this matchup on Monday. I think it's going to be a good game. I'm hoping that it's not a blowout, but I do expect it to be a very aggressive game where neither team is going to back down. I don't think there's going to be a game where you're going to see too many explosive plays, and I'm hoping that it's just going to be an overall competitive game. But just like you've iterated multiple times since early on in the playoffs. I'm going with Ohio State. I think everything that would reiterate everything you said for my reasoning for latching onto that wagon. I'm going with Ohio State. I think they have figured things out. I think they have too many pieces for Notre Dame to keep up with, but I do expect and hope that it's going to be a closer game than the previous games that Ohio State has gone on in this great playoff run that they're on right now.
Mm-hmm.
But now, maybe my favorite side of the leagues, the NFL playoffs. We had wild card weekend last week, and I'm going to run through some of these matchups, some of these games, and I want to ask you some questions about them. First off, we're going to start with the Texans and the Chargers. And my question to you is, are you ready to say that Justin Herbert deserves as much scrutiny as other quarterbacks that tend to choke in the playoffs get? Because a lot of people, Justin Herbert is like the darling of the NFL right now. And he laid an egg in the playoffs, and he's consistently, this is the second time he's laid an egg in the playoffs. For those of you that don't remember, he was partially responsible for them losing against Jacksonville when they had a 23-point lead 3 years ago in the playoffs. And now he was very much responsible for the way that this Texans game went. They were favored, and he ended up throwing 4 picks and not much to show for it besides one explosive play in the fourth quarter to make the score look prettier. What say you about the current status of Justin Herbert?
Well, no, if you're going to be a franchise quarterback, you need to be able to be the one to lead your team to victory when it counts. And the Chargers were a great story this year. Justin Herbert, he wasn't his usual self with the gaudy numbers, but the stats show that he was just as effective. But when it comes to crunch time, you're going to need to be able to put up. And as great as he looks in those SoFi commercials, he looked awful in this game. And it's this is going to be something where Jim Harbaugh is going to go in the offseason, and he's going to evaluate the roster. Because you remember at the beginning of the season, they overhauled the entire roster, especially the offensive side of the ball. The entire roster is overhauled. And it worked pretty well in order for you to get the 5 seed in the playoffs. But, if you're going to be able to compete with the big dogs, one, you're going to need a running game. I love J.K. Dobbins, but he's not a starting running back. He's not. And so, and nothing against him. But, you need someone who's going to be able to take the ball, pound it, and take over the game. And I think we've seen this season just the resurgence of the running back. And it doesn't matter how old they are. If you're good, you're good. And so you go out and you get yourself a good back. You get yourself a bell cow, and you keep pounding the ball. And then, but also, Justin's going to have to make better decisions. He's going to have to make better decisions. Now, I will say this. I don't think anyone, Manny, saw Houston playing out of their minds. Autry, Anderson, Daniil Hunter, they dominated that football game. Derek Stingley Jr. is playing out of his mind right now. That Houston defense was overpowering in that game. And I don't think anyone would have beat them. Nobody would have beat that Houston.
I expected them to be competitive in that matchup because throughout the entire year, their defense was the reason that they were staying in games, if not directly the reason they were
Correct.
winning games.
Yeah.
That
But
reason
they
that
played at another level. That was
they
another
did.
level.
They did. They were smothering to the next level, but they had the potential all year. They showed that they had the potential to dominate a game. My thing with Justin Herbert is why are we not talking about Justin Herbert the same way we're talking about Lamar Jackson, where he has a great regular season and the playoffs come around and he has nothing to show for it? The same way that we talk about Dak Prescott. I'm not trying to bring it back to a quarterback that is not in the playoffs right now, but we scrutinize Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson the same in the same fashion. Don't show me what you do in the regular season. I know you can put up numbers in the regular season. Playoffs is what we care about. And right now, I'm not too sold on Justin Herbert knowing what to do in the playoffs. That's what I want. I want the scrutiny to be on his plate as well because he's done the same type of thing that those quarterbacks that I just mentioned have done. Great regular season, even in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is probably best answered with an analogy or a metaphor. It is Lamar Jackson and Dak Prescott had capable head coaches on the sidelines for years, and Lamar still has his head coach there. John Harbaugh is one of the greatest to ever do it. And Mike McCarthy, as much as I give him flack for being, Kirkland's signature Andy Reid, he still had success. And he was in a tougher division, and so with not just one team running the gambit like in the AFC West, was just the Chiefs for the last 68 years. But it's almost as if you look at the airlines and you say, I can fly Delta, I can fly Southwest, or I can fly Spirit Airlines. I can fly the airline that gets the last pick of the litter when it comes to pilots and then has terrible infrastructure and is charging me out the wazoo for what? For nothing. And that's what the Chargers presented. The Chargers did not have a coaching infrastructure at all. Justin Herbert has been Justin Herbert this entire time, but he finally has a coach who's competent. Jim Harbaugh is going to take this Chargers team to new heights. Okay? All right? The Kelsey brothers are the only ones that are going to be familiar with this, okay? So are the Chargers, okay? They are going to go. They're going to soar, okay? And so this is – and now that Justin Herbert has been able to taste and to see what it's like to have a competent head coach on the sideline, someone who's been there, someone who knows how to be a quarterback, someone who's been a quarterback in the NFL, and now he's the head coach who has done nothing but has been successful in every stage that he's been in. This is going to be an opportunity for Justin Herbert to learn and to grow in a very productive way. Because now we got to see Justin Herbert on the big stage. We got to see what he's like. He has had the opportunity to know what it's like to be in the playoffs now and to be in a game where he thought, hey, I think we have a chance to win. And so I'm not going to sit there and say that, Justin Herbert's a wash-up, but I will say the difference between Justin versus Lamar and Dak is that even though there hasn't been really any success with Lamar and Dak, I think the difference is because we hold the former two or the latter two in a brighter light because of the organizations they've been in, because of the continuous success they've had in the playoffs, and just the ability to be able to go into playoffs and say, okay, they can absolutely win this game, and they don't. With Justin Herbert, yes, he's got a lot to prove. He's got a lot to show that he can actually be the guy to lead the Chargers to the next level, and hopefully he can. I still think he can. I think Justin Herbert can be somebody in L.A. as long as Harbaugh is his coach. And Harbaugh is going to do nothing but succeed there. So I think that's the difference there.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and jump ship and say Justin Herbert's a wash either. But I'll have you know, starting next season with the organizational structure they have in place, with a coach that they knows how to build a team, if people aren't sitting there and having Justin Herbert under a microscope next year, you're kind of missing the. I know I will have Justin Herbert's success under my microscope because we start with the there's no excuses phase of his career. because
Yeah.
you did explain it properly. He didn't have the infrastructure. He didn't have the right coaching staff
Yeah.
in place. Well, you have that now. If you're not going to do that next year, I understand this year was probably a fluke, and I'm the first one. I will admit at the beginning of the season I said this is probably going to be
Yeah.
a growing pains kind of season for that team as a whole. They're going to look good. There's going to be flashes of good, but I expected them to not even make the playoffs because they were missing all those pieces. And
Yeah.
now you have that coach in place, and you
They overachieved this season.
you overachieved. Well, you don't have that excuse. Next year, we're going to hold you as well. You're a playoff team from last year. What are you going to build on from that point? If Justin Herbert is the reason that we're
Absolutely,
saying that you're not going to be competing against the Chiefs and for the division, and we can find a reason to say Justin Herbert, you're part of the problem. That's going to be a problem for me because he got a new contract.
Yeah.
Like I said, everybody's been on the hype train for Justin Herbert being one of those franchise quarterbacks. Well, it's going to be time to show up or shut up is the 2025 season for the LA Chargers for me. Moving on.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Ravens, Steelers. Is your
I was so close to being right. I was so close to being right.
How's your
how's your half? If they had 6 quarters to play in this game, the Steelers could have won. Okay, Steelers played great football in the second half. Look, I sat here and said,
I've never tasted crow soup. Tell me how it tastes.
You know what? With a little bit of Tony's on it, it's delicious. No, I mean you have to brine it first, to keep the juices in. No, and look, I did call Pittsburgh to win it, and I stand by it. I said Pittsburgh was going to beat Baltimore because, one, I was like, look, how great would it be if I was on the side of the fact that this happened and no one else called it. I would be considered the prophet, and then everyone would bow down to me in my 100-foot golden statue. And then if I'm wrong, then look, I'm just an idiot that he's a bum on this podcast. But look, I was looking at Mike Tomlin and the last 5 playoff appearances in the last 8 years for this team. When they made the playoffs, they finished the season off red hot. They were at rock bottom. They could not get any lower. And I believed in Mike Tomlin's ability to be able to instill in this team a confidence. And I also, look, there was a part of me that legitimately thought, okay, I know, Todd Monken has leaned on the run game all season. He has led with Derrick Henry, and he's created an environment where Lamar has shined brighter than he ever has. There was a part of me that thought that they were going to abandon the run game with Henry and put the game on Lamar's shoulders.
Yeah.
And Mike Tomlin getting his team ready, which didn't happen, paired with the Ravens possibly just saying, okay, Lamar, this is your team. Show us what you got. I thought that's what was going to happen. I did. Yeah. You know what? I was wrong.
You were. Well, here's my question to you. What do you do with Russell Wilson? And here's my thing. Russell Wilson looked competent. I don't think he's washed out completely yet. But man, if one game was not the complete picture of the type of season that he had, I don't know what is. Because Russell Wilson has had peaks and he has had valleys deeper than the Grand Canyon. The game was the exact representation of that. The first half he threw 69 yards. The second half he comes out, starts throwing bombs to Pickens, and he starts looking like a competent quarterback. Russell Wilson's not under contract right now. What would you do with him? I can't tell if he's a quarterback that you can really rely on at this point.
Yeah. If I'm the Steelers, I'm evaluating who do I bring in that can do better than what Russell Wilson has this season. This was Russ's first season in the system. Do I bring in Sam Darnold? I probably not, because Russell Wilson would cost way less than Sam Darnold. Do I trade for a guy like Derek Carr and take on half of that contract, which, fingers crossed, the Saints just cut bait and whatever. But, I don't
Do you
think that
for the
with
quarterback for
the
Matt
Kirk Cousins. No, because Kirk Cousins hasn't had any postseason success either. So like, and that's my thing is that like, if I have if I can run it back with Russell Wilson on a cheaper contract, and then maybe there's talks out there that the Patriots might want to move away from Joe Milton, the backup to Drake May. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm like, okay, Russ, you're going to be the starter this year or going into next year. We'll re-sign you. Here's what we're going to give you. Okay, we're not going any higher. This is what we're going to give you to be the starter of the Pittsburgh Steelers, which I don't think Russell Wilson gets that chance any other place. I just don't see it. His only shot at starting is in Pittsburgh. That's what I see. If I'm Pittsburgh, I'm sitting there saying, okay, this is what we'll offer you, and then let's go bring in Joe Milton. Let's bring in Joe Milton. Let's have Joe Milton learn behind Russell Wilson, because despite the valleys of Russell Wilson and how great they are and how much they mirror, his wife's career, extreme highs and now just extreme lows. Oh wait, you're still here? That's what they say about both of them. Oh, you still do the thing you do? Bring in Joe Milton, let him sit behind Russell Wilson, and then see what happens. Because Mike Tomlin's not going to settle for anything where he's like, let's just get a top 5 pick. He's not going to settle for that. That's not at all the Steeler way. And if it was, and if the Rooneys had any suspicions that Mike Tomlin would do that, they wouldn't have re-signed him for another 5 years. It wouldn't have happened. So I say bring back Russell, trade for a guy like Joe Milton, and then bring him in and let him sit behind Russell. Or if you're gonna get rid of Russell, then go get Joe Milton anyway and let Joe Milton cook in that Steelers offense.
Yeah.
So it's not as if Pittsburgh doesn't have weapons on the offensive side. They can survive with a guy like Joe Milton.
Here's my thing. I agree with part of your statement. I think the right move would be to bring back Russell Wilson if you can afford Russell Wilson. I think you can. I think you hit it on the nail on the head. I don't think Russell Wilson's necessarily a coveted quarterback, especially a starting quarterback in any other franchise. And I don't think he mentally is ready to be a backup. So I agree with you bringing him back. But what I don't want to see is the Steelers continue to go down this path of let's take somebody else's scraps and see if we can make it work in our system. Go draft a quarterback. Go let him sign Russell Wilson to a couple 2-year contract. Let the rookie watch what Russell Wilson has experienced success. He knows how to win. Let him learn from somebody that's experienced success and then build upon that. I only brought up the hypothetical of them bringing up one of the other quarterbacks. I don't want to see that. I really don't. I'm tired the Steelers need to find some sort of stability, and it can't start with continuing the trend of patchwork with quarterbacks that nobody else wants. That is the last thing that I think the Steelers need. I think they need some stability. I think they need to have patience with the quarterback, but I think they need to scout better. They can't be relying on a homegrown body like they did with Pickens 2-3 years ago, and think that just because he's homegrown he's going to fit well into the system. Go draft a quarterback and trust your scouts. Yeah. Let Russell Wilson play for a season or two and let that quarterback grow within the system, and then when he's ready, then put him in, and hopefully you have a long-term solution to that. That seems like the best case scenario for that organization, because you're right, they do have pieces. Obviously, they have just enough pieces to make the playoffs. Now you just need to find those last couple pieces that put you over the hump. And unfortunately, that hump is quite the big one, which is the Baltimore Ravens, and you need to figure out how to beat them. If you're going to continue to make the playoffs at the same time that they are, you need to figure out an offensive captain that can go head to head with Lamar Jackson, because I can tell you Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere. And if Derrick Henry continues to play the way that he's been playing, that offense is not going anywhere either. So you need to find a way to be competitive on the offensive side, because we know what the Steelers defense can do. Yeah. Now, next game, the Bills-Broncos. Did you see enough from the Bills to be confident in them? And we didn't expect the Broncos to be competitive. I think the hype behind the Broncos possibly having enough of a defense to possibly pull an upset off kind of pissed off the Bills. But my inquiry is: did we see enough from the Bills in that game to feel like they can finally get to the Super Bowl this year?
I don't think there's anything you could take from that game to sit there and say I'm more confident or I'm less confident. They played the Denver Broncos. I don't. I there's. I mean, and look, all respect to Denver and Sean Payton's playoff success, all he had in New Orleans, but it's like, look, I mean, you play Denver. I mean,
Yeah.
Denver got in. Denver should have been the 5 seed, and they slipped all the way to the 6 seed, and it was because it was because the Bengals lost and the Chiefs rested all their starters. Like, this is like, it's my issue with Buffalo, who now they're going to come up against Baltimore, is that it's Buffalo does 2 things that frighten me, and they frighten me specifically because of who they're about to face. Buffalo likes that defense likes to play and just let the game happen to them before they decide how they're going to attack. They allow the other team to do what they're going to do, which is why that game was so close in the first half against Denver. And then, but to add to that is that Buffalo's Achilles heel has been stopping the run game. So, and if Derrick Henry is going to go off like he did against Pittsburgh, I mean, I'm not saying Buffalo won't win this game. I mean, Josh Allen is still a human being that exists on this planet. But it's one of those things where Sean McDermott's going to have to get this team ready to go.
Yeah.
They're going to have to come up with a game plan and stick to it and be aggressive with it from the jump. They cannot allow the game to come to them. They can't. Which is what they've been customary to doing, is letting the game come to them and then responding to it. They need to respond aggressive and be aggressive the entire game. That's what needs to happen.
Agreed. Completely agreed. Everything that you just said, I agree with 100%. But again, the only thing that sucks about this matchup, the Bills-Ravens, and I'm kind of jumping ahead a little bit, but it's with good reason. The Bills-Ravens matchup that we have coming up this weekend is such a lose-lose situation for both of those teams, because if the Ravens lose to the Bills, then the conversation becomes the Ravens, you beat somewhat of a not necessarily competitive team in the Steelers because they didn't show like they were ready for the stage. If the Ravens lose to the Bills, then the conversation becomes again, okay, Lamar Jackson keeps choking under pressure when they play good teams. Now, if the Bills lose, then the conversation kind of is the same way for Josh Allen. You can't beat a really good team, and Lamar Jackson's not going anywhere. You have to figure out a way to beat him. So it's just overall a very crappy situation for both of those teams, because no matter how good of a game you played, the narrative at the finish line for one of those quarterbacks is going to be, you can't figure it out.
Yeah. No, I honestly, like, this is for the AFC. This is the best setup for an upset in both of these games. Mm-hmm. I can see Baltimore overcoming Buffalo because of Buffalo's penchant, like I said, to allow the game to come to them. And then I could see Houston beating Kansas City because of the way that defense responded against the Chargers. And in no way am I saying that, oh, look how they did the Chargers, they're going to do the same thing to the Chiefs. No, not at all. This is still Patrick Mahomes. Doesn't matter. He could have the entire cast of the replacements behind him, and it's still not going to it's not going to matter a lick because he's still Patrick Mahomes. Mm-hmm. But I think this weekend for the AFC has set up the possibility for upsets, because if Houston can play the way they played, and if they can, if that Houston offensive line can somehow slow down Chris Jones, Houston has a chance. This Kansas City Buffalo game, or this Kansas City Houston game, is going to be extremely close. It's going to be low scoring. This is not going to be a high scoring game. The Buffalo Baltimore game is going to be close, and it's going to be a shootout. So both of these games are going to be close, but with Houston, if they can contain Chris Jones, Houston has a shot. But they only have a shot if they contain Chris Jones and play the defense that they played against LA. If they can do that, then they have a chance. With Buffalo and Baltimore, I've already said it. Buffalo's got to be aggressive from the coin toss all the way through, the victory formation. They have to be aggressive the entire time. They have to know this is how we're going to attack Baltimore. This is how we're going to win it. Because even if Derrick Henry somehow breaks some runs against this Buffalo defense, which he will, if Buffalo is aggressive from the jump, then Buffalo should win this game.
I need you to lock them in, JB. I need you to lock in your division picks. Chiefs, Texans.
I got Kansas City, Buffalo.
Okay. Ooh, that's good. The beauty, I think I'll take the same. I'll take the Chiefs and Buffalo. The beauty about the AFC is that these top quarterbacks, and then when you get Joe Burrow back into the form of the Joe Burrow that we expect, these four, we should get accustomed to these quarterbacks kind of beating each other out of the playoffs and kind of breaking each other's heart. It's something to look forward to, but I will also lock in my picks with the Chiefs and the Texans for the same reasons that you have mentioned. But at the same time, the Chiefs have had about a month to get healthy. They've gotten all their pieces. They got Hollywood Brown. They got him. They got him back into the play. Week 17 is when he finally got back from his injury, and he looked pretty good. He looked like he fit right into that offense. And then they let Mahomes get healthy. They let really all their starters get healthy for an entire month. So the Texans are going to have their hands full with that entire starting lineup being at 100, close to as 100% as you can get for the playoffs. But I'm not too sure it's going to be as close as you make it seem, but I'll still go with the Chiefs on that matchup. Now on the NFC side, and we'll go through these a little bit faster because I think you JB nailed the NFC side of the bracket. You got
I did, yes, except for the Buccaneer Redskin game. I think I landed on the Buccaneers winning that game.
I could have sworn you ended up bless you. I think you ended up landing with the Commanders at the end of the day, but that was
did I land? Because I couldn't remember if I did or not. I just that was the one game I was like, I don't know. It's a 50-50 toss up for me.
I'm pretty sure you locked it in with the Commanders, so I'll give you credit for that. And you locked in the Rams. I'll give you your flowers on that side of the bracket. I did not. I was not expecting the Rams to have as dominant of a defense as they had. 9 sacks in the game is unheard of. And my question to you: 2 games, is that enough for you to jump ship on Sam Darnold?
I didn't have faith in Sam Darnold in the first place.
He played a good season. He had 2 bad games when the spotlight was the brightest. And here's the reason
that Minnesota defense. That Minnesota defense was the only reason that they stayed in the game for the second half of the season. I have nothing against Sam Darnold. I've got nothing against Sam Darnold going out and getting Baker Mayfield money. I posted this. I've got no qualms with that. I think he's earned it. I think he's one of those good guys in the NFL. Some team is going to go get him. Honestly, I think it's the New York Giants are going to go get Sam Darnold, bring him to New York, and then see what happens. But I was never really sold on him in the first place. Now, he played great against teams with a 500 record or better. He did. But it was those defenses that actually won them those games. And when that Rams game, and I said it, look, between in 6 quarters, essentially, the second half of that Week 8 game and then this Monday night game, the Rams sacked Sam Darnold 9 times. He sounds like the principal from Ferris Bueller. 9 times. And everyone's like, 9 times? 9 times. This is not like, and part of this Rams performance probably goes a lot to just the heart they have for the city that they play in, that's literally burning to the ground as we speak. And but the Rams going against, who are they playing? Detroit?
The Rams?
Yeah, the Rams.
Yeah, the Rams are going up against the Eagles.
No. The Rams are playing the Eagles. That's right. Yeah, the Bucks are playing the Lions. Yeah.
No.
I mean,
the Lions.
Washington is. Washington's playing Detroit. I I don't think the Rams are going to beat the Eagles. I don't, because I think Jalen Hurts, as bad as he looked against that Green Bay defense exposed him. But it was also Jalen Hurts' first game back from that concussion. And so I think it's just going to be about, okay, he's finding his rhythm. Because the beginning of that game, Jalen Hurts looked great against the Packers. He looked fantastic. But then the wheels started to fall off. Um, and the reason that Packers game was so close is because Jeff Hafley, the DC for Green Bay, kept that game close. The defense for the Green Bay Packers kept that game close. That's the only reason that game was as close as it was. It was 22-10. It seemed a lot closer than that. I don't think that Chris Shula is going to be able to draw up against Jalen Hurts and have the same success as he did against Sam Darnold. I don't see that happening. And the biggest reason, too, is because just like Baltimore, Philly leads their offense with the ground game. Saquon is still a human, lives on this planet, and he's still going to crush it no matter who he plays. And if Saquon does enough and they don't abandon that run game, then Philly should have no problem beating the Rams.
So here's my take on the Vikings-Ram game. The Rams defense, they were the equivalent of the Texans defense, and I wish we could see those two defenses line up and see how they line up against each other. But I'm giving Sam Darnold the benefit of the doubt, and I'm not saying he should reset the market with a quarterback contract, but the reason I'm giving Sam Darnold the benefit of the doubt is because the first few years of his professional career, I would consider a watch. Between him being with the Jets and being with the Panthers, really I don't even think he had an opportunity to learn besides learning how to lose. And kudos to you if you learn how to lose, because then you figure out how to win. But this is the first time he's actually had pressure on his face. And when I say pressure on his face, I mean when it comes to the brightest of spotlights, Week 18 starting that, and then obviously the playoffs. My thing with him is I'm not jumping ship on the quality of Sam Darnold's play, because I'm really treating him almost as a second-year quarterback, because he got the chance to finally sit back as a backup quarterback when he was with the 49ers and figure out how the game is played. And now he's what I would consider a sophomore. And even any sophomore, if it's not Jaden Daniels, or I'm blanking on other quarterbacks that have had rookie success. But if it's not for those, a quarterback with that minimal experience is bound to quiver when the spotlights are brightest. And that is the take that I'm taking with Sam Darnold, which is why I'm thinking whatever team gets Sam Darnold, you're only going to get a better version of whatever Sam Darnold looked like this year, which could be a very good Sam Darnold quarterback for your organization. Now that he's dealt with the pressure of games that matter the most when it came to the number one seed against the Lions, that might as well have been a playoff game because there was so much on the line. And then the playoff matchup itself, he didn't play the worst, but he definitely looked like he was overwhelmed. And with the experience of being in those spotlights, you can only grow from those positions. So that's why I'm sitting here and I'm not necessarily completely jumping ship on him. I think he has a lot to show, and like I said, I'm treating him almost like a sophomore quarterback, and I think he has quite the arm. If there's something that anybody always looks at is, does your quarterback have an arm? And Sam Darnold has an arm, and he has the IQ. What he lacked was the experience of being in a competitive team with everything on the line, and he seemed overwhelmed in both of those games, and he made mistakes that inexperienced quarterbacks in those type of moments tend to make. He held on to the ball for way too long against the Rams, and he made basic mistakes where he just missed his targets in the season finale against the Lions. So I think there's a lot of hope for Sam Darnold, and I think he has a lot to he'll have a lot to prove next year to show that what he did this year wasn't an anomaly. But I'm sold on Sam Darnold being competent enough to be a starting quarterback. Now the Eagles-Packers game, what I saw from that game was what I expected to see from that game. once that we saw that Watson was going to be out for the game and Alexander was going to be out on the defensive side for the Packers, the Packers just looked like they didn't have enough pieces. The Eagles did a really good job at not losing their identity, very similar to what I was hoping the Ravens didn't do, which was losing their identity from going through the run game and then using that as an explosive way to open up their offense. The Eagles did that just fine. I'm expecting them to continue to do that. I don't see a reason for why they wouldn't continue to rely on Saquon Barkley as the driver behind that offense. So when it comes to locking in my picks, I'm going to go with the Eagles being the Rams because I think the Rams the Rams against the Vikings told me more about the Vikings than it did about the Rams. Told me more about the holes that the Vikings had on their offensive line and the inexperience on the Vikings quarterback position. It told me more about the Vikings than it did about the Rams. But when it comes to matching up against a team like the Eagles, I think the Eagles are gonna be able to continue the type of gameplay that they've been playing. And this is even a one-off that they played a well-rounded game against the Packers. This is the type of offense that they've had all year. So they know their identity. They're going to continue to run that identity, and I don't think the Rams are going to have enough to stop the running game. And then if you stop the running game, well, you also have to worry about Jalen Hurts' running game. And if you stop that, you stop the running game. Oh, I'm sorry. I forget that you have A.J. Brown reading a book while he keeps his leg warm and the explosive vertical offense to take place. So there's just too many pieces for the Rams to really shut down that entire offense. So I'm expecting the Eagles to win that game. And on the other side, the Lions-Commanders games, I would, for the sake of us having a disagreement, because if we agreed on everything, JB, our podcast would be about 5 minutes long. I'm going to take the Commanders against the Lions. The Commanders look solid. The Lions, I'm still concerned about their holes on the defense. The Commanders seem like they don't know how to make mistakes. For the sake of us taking different picks on our playoff picks, I'm going to take the Commanders do just enough to upset the Lions. I don't know if the rest tends to kind of sneak up on some of those teams. You lose your groove and you lose your flow, especially with such a high pressure game like it was Week 18 against the Vikings. Maybe that comes and bites them. Maybe their defense they can't figure out how to defend a running quarterback. I'm gonna lock in Commanders and Eagles for the NFC Championship.
Yeah, I'm going with Detroit. There was something in that Washington game that was glaring to me, and it was at the end of the game when the Bucks were up and Washington was driving. A lot of the Jaden Daniels magic has come not because of his arm, but because of what he does when he's running. It seemed to me that Washington abandoned that. Washington decided to rely on Jaden as the quarterback as opposed to the dual threat that he is. And look, I mean, that Washington ended up winning, winning covers a multitude of sins. But I still think Detroit's going to win this game because Detroit's big Achilles heel is that run game. And if Washington decides to abandon that run game like it did in the second half against Tampa Bay, I don't see Detroit losing this game. And I've said this too. Detroit getting the first seed, the number one overall seed in the NFC was important because, yes, while they averaged 28, 29 points on the road, they average a touchdown more at home. And so, they are a different beast when it comes to being at home. And if Detroit struggles against the run game, okay, cool, whatever. I've seen it all season long. But when it comes to going through the air, that's secondary. And yes, that Detroit defense is decimated. It is decimated. And it is the Dewey decimated system over on the defensive side of the football for Detroit. They are broken. But Aaron Glenn has done a masterful job at preparing this defense. And I know that their sacks have not been nearly as what they have been, the first half of the season ever since they lost Aiden. Honestly, that might be a blessing in disguise, because if you're going to come across and like the Eagles are going to beat the Rams, like I believe, and I believe they're going to beat Washington, then they're going to come against another running quarterback in the NFC Championship game. Detroit's lack of ability to attack the quarterback, like to take him down, might come to their benefit because these guys run so well. They can escape pressure like nobody's business. And so if Aaron Glenn can get these guys to I don't know, have inverted safeties, make it look like they're going to blitz, but then shoot out, and then have the Mike linebacker just stay and be able to track the quarterback. I can see how Detroit can pull it off against Washington. I can see how they can pull it off against Philly. I still have zero doubts that Detroit will be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
You know what? I can't do it, JB. As much as I like disagreeing with you, I can't. I don't see a rookie quarterback taking his team to the NFC Championship. I'm changing my mind.
Are you changing your mind? Nice, love it.
I'm going Lions. We'll have the same bracket. That's fine. I can't. The last thing that sold it for me, as you were talking, is that I remembered Montgomery's practicing this year. They're gonna get their dual-headed running game going again. I don't see it. I as much as I want to believe that the magical powder that is running through the river of Washington is still running strong, I'm not gonna doubt the Lions just for the sake of doubting the Lions. And not only that, the Lions are my last hope to stop the Eagles, or having to witness the Eagles being in another Super Bowl. I can't handle that. My pride can't handle an NFC East team being in the Super Bowl, and the Lions give the best chance to stopping the Eagles from making the Super Bowl. So I'm gonna side with you. I'm gonna go with the Lions on this. That just for my own sanity, I want to be able to be more happy if I know I'm right, and the Lions winning against the Commanders, and then the Lions giving the Eagles a run for the money. That'll be a good game. But for my sanity, I'm going to switch my pick, and I'm going to go with the Lions beating the Commanders. Plus, it's not happened many times that I think it'd be the fifth time if Jaden Daniels pulled it off with the Commanders, that a rookie quarterback led their team to a championship game in the playoffs. It's not common for a reason. And the Lions continue to show that they're dominant no matter how many pieces are missing. I can't do it. I'm going to go Lions. That's it.
Yeah. I think too many people have doubted this. They have hung their hat on picking the opponent of Detroit because of how decimated the defense was.
Yeah.
Detroit was still 15-2 with that defense, and they did not have an easy route. They played in arguably the toughest conference. They had to play Minnesota twice. They had to play Green Bay twice, and then they had warm-ups against the Bears. Like, this is like Aaron Glenn, like I said, has proven that he can be able to prepare anybody, which is why he's so highly touted. And Ben Johnson, the same. I mean, this Detroit team is ready to go. Yeah. They are prepared.
Yeah, there's a reason. There's probably 4 top head coaching candidates, and 2 of them are sitting in the coordinator positions for the Lions. Both of those, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, both know what they're doing. I'm going to trust that between those 2 and Dan Campbell, the 3-headed possible head coaches of next year, they can figure out how to be a rookie-led Commanders team. I'm sold on the Lions being able to pull off. I don't think with what they have going on, the type of season they've had, they're in the same position that they were last year, despite the injuries. I think they can still build on what they did last year, which was losing their identity in the NFC Championship. But I expect them to be in the NFC Championship this year. So we will have the Chiefs and the Bills on the AFC side, and then we will have the Lions and the Eagles on the NFC side. And we'll save our picks for that based off of what we see in this weekend's divisional round matchups. But both of those matchups seem like really good championship games.
Yeah, no, and especially when the entire year, Chiefs, Bills, you knew everyone's expected that to be the AFC Championship game.
Yep.
And then when you come to the NFC side, there was always, is it the Lions, the Vikings, or the Eagles? And,
Right.
And this is, I mean, it's extremely fitting to be able to have, this prospective championship series in both AFC and the NFC is, being able to have arguably the top 4 teams in the NFL from this season. And so, I honestly don't have a problem with it because it honestly just makes sense. And it's what we've seen with our eyes the entire regular season.
Number 1 and number 2 seeds across the board. So that's kind of how anybody would expect it. As niche as it might be, and it might not be the flashiest. And I know I will caveat this, and I'll say half of my bracket at the beginning of the year was saying that the Ravens would make the Super Bowl. The Packers kind of blew up my bracket anyways when they lost. But either way, we will see what this weekend has in store. That being said, JB, boom, 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 boom. It is time for our fix of 6. JB, are you ready with your fixes of 6s?
I'm ready. Yes.
Take it away.
JB's number 3 fix of 6. A report came out in New Orleans saying that Mickey Loomis was casting a wide net to be able to find the next head coach of my New Orleans Saints. And am I joyful to hear it. Oh, wow. With names such as Joe Brady, Mike McCarthy, Anthony Weaver. Who can forget that vaunted Dolphin defense from this season? Look, I'm sick and tired of Mickey Loomis being able to make these decisions for the New Orleans Saints, hanging his hat on the fact that he hired Sean Payton all those years ago, when really that was Benson that hired Sean Payton. Let's not forget that. This is he says, we're just casting a wide net because we want to be able to just see what falls. No, there's an old saying. You don't know where you're going, any train will get you there. I don't care what Excel spreadsheets you have. I don't care that you have offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, special team coordinators, cheerleading coordinators, Dairy Queen managers. I don't care how you organize your Excel spreadsheet. You already missed out on choice A, which is Mike Vrabel, which arguably you had no chance at. And really, your biggest shot at being able to succeed in this head coaching search is to get Aaron Glenn. And now there's reports saying Aaron Glenn wants to go coach for the team that drafted him number one overall. I mean, not number one, but in the first round in '94. I don't care who it is. I mean, I do care. But please, for the love of God, do not let it just be anybody. Because anybody means Mike McCarthy, okay? Anybody means Mike Kafka. And yeah, that hallowed name. Everyone knows Mike Kafka. Ooh, yeah, that'll instill fear. No one is going to care that you hire Mike McCarthy or Mike Kafka or who's the other clown that they're... Matt Nagy. Who the frick cares about Matt Nagy? You don't need Matt Nagy. Get him out of the picture. Stop trying to interview these outside sources because you think you got an edge on the game. You don't. They've already proven they can't do it. If you can't get Aaron Glenn, maybe get Cliff Kingsbury. If you can't get Cliff Kingsbury, I wouldn't mind if you brought in Ron Rivera. Bring in Ron Rivera to be the head coach. That's way better than any of these names that you're hyping up because you want to sit there and say, "Ooh, look at us. We're so diverse. We got an Excel spreadsheet that it's divided between coordinators." Ooh, I don't care. I don't give a damn about your process if you're going to bring in the wrong coach. What is the matter with you? JB's Fix the 6, number 2. Not Oakland A's. Sorry. The Sacramento, soon-to-be probably Vegas A's, have signed another big money contract. They extended Brent Rooker to a 5-year, $60 million contract, which can become a 6-year, $92 million deal. This is a big deal if you're an A's fan, because although they're going to play on a field suited for the Little League World Series, nay, suited for the Little Leaguers to practice the Little League World Series, they are still out there trying to build a franchise to be able to, by the time they maybe come to Vegas, which still, I'll remind you folks, is not even close to a guarantee. By the time they maybe get to Vegas, they will have names like Severino and Rooker, which is great, because why wouldn't you want a team with stars who are already in their 30s? That just spells success already. JB's Fix the Six, number 1. I'm going to go just a bit outside for this one. It's a sad day for baseball. Bob Uecker has passed away. At the age of 90, Mr. Baseball, Uke himself, has passed. And I can sit here and say that in his playing career, he played for the Cardinals. In his broadcast career, he called games for the Brewers. As a Cubs fan, I couldn't be more disgusted with anyone who associates himself with both of those franchises. But Bob Uecker is different. Bob Uecker transcended baseball. Bob Uecker became a meme. Bob Uecker defined himself by his own standards. And listening to Bud Selig, I have my own issues with that man, but listening to Bud Selig just talk about Bob Uecker, it moved me. It makes me sad that this man is gone, and all prayers and thoughts to his family. But Bob Uecker, at the age of 90, has passed away, and his mark on baseball will be forever indelible. Manny, go.
JB, I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Who would you rather the Saints hire? Robert Saleh or the infamous coach from the Bears, that Matt Nagy that they're interviewing? I'm just going to leave that food for thought, because both of those are coaches that are up for grabs, and the Saints are desperate for a quarterback. But on Manny's Fix of Six, I am going with my number 3 pick. Gerard Mayo is out as a Patriots head coach, and who is in as a Patriots coach? First, let me ask you, why are you going to hire Gerard Mayo as the heir apparent to Bill Belichick if you're not going to give him an opportunity to fully develop a team? And then you're going to go and hire Mike Vrabel, which was available last year. Last year, he was still a top head coaching candidate, and you didn't bring him in because you wanted to give Gerard Mayo the opportunity of, well, we groomed you to be the head coach, so here's the opportunity. Looking back at it, besides winning the Super Bowl, I can't sit here and say Gerard Mayo had a fair shake at being able to keep that job as a head coach for the long term, because the eyes were constantly on Mike Vrabel since the moment that the ink was on pen on that hire for the head coach. So I'm not too confident on what the heck the Patriots are doing, but if you wanted Mike Vrabel, go get Mike Vrabel last year. Why are we playing these games with the organization? Now you have a rookie quarterback that looked pretty dang good under that offense they had in place. He looked pretty good with Gerard Mayo as his head coach, and now you're making a rookie quarterback learn a whole new offensive system with Vrabel being the head coach. So Patriots, I want you to check yourselves, and I want you to really analyze what it is that you're looking for in a head coach. No diss on Vrabel. I think he'll bring tons of success with the Patriots organization, but why wait? We all knew that's who you wanted. You knew that's who you wanted last year. Why play the game with Gerard Mayo? Now that poor man has to be the coach that we say was the one and done out of the Patriots organization. On Manny's number 2 Fix of 6. JB, did you know that Cleveland is suing the Cleveland Browns because they want to have a better stadium? Am I putting that in a nutshell? Yes. But ultimately, that's what it comes down to. The Cleveland Browns are looking at moving their location into a new stadium, including an enclosed indoor stadium. And Cleveland has decided to sue the Cleveland Browns because they're moving, because there's some state law that says that they have to give enough warning or whatever there's some caveat that they have going on why they shouldn't be allowed to move. Cleveland, if you want to sue somebody, why not sue Deshaun Watson for stealing millions and millions of dollars from the team that you're so much fighting to keep in your city? Your team is moving 15 miles down the road. They're in the same county. From this new stadium that they want to build, they're still right there. Why are we focusing on the team when Deshaun Watson has straight up robbed your team's budget and their salary from millions and millions of dollars? And for those of you that have not kept tabs on Deshaun Watson, because let's be honest, who's keeping tabs on Deshaun Watson nowadays? He has re-injured his Achilles, and now they're expecting him to be out completely for the 2025 season. So if you want to hire some great lawyers to start suing something associated with the Cleveland Browns, maybe focus your efforts on Deshaun Watson, which straight up conducted a grand robbery with the Cleveland Browns organization. And on Manny's number one fix of 6, wrapping it all back around to the Patriots in my own twisted way, it has come out that arguably the greatest coach in NFL history, Bill Belichick, has yet to sign his contract with the North Carolina football team. We knew that he was the selected coach for that football program, and then we didn't hear a whole lot about his recruiting efforts or a whole lot going on. And now UNC has come out and confirmed that, yeah, Bill Belichick has not signed his contract with all the guarantees, where we thought there was going to be a $10 million buyout for Bill Belichick to jump ship before he ever played a single game for the UNC football team. It's giving me a feeling that, yeah, Bill Belichick never going to play it down for the UNC football team. Bill Belichick somehow pulled some weird maneuver to delay the signing of his contract, and he is going to jump ship and somehow become an NFL coach to chase down the winningest head coach in NFL history. And you know what? Kudos to Bill Belichick, because only he would figure out a way to have that type of agreement with UNC. And then UNC kind of coming out and saying, yeah, he hasn't signed the contract. What do you want us to tell you? He's technically not the official head coach. It's giving me signs that Bill Belichick is not going to taste the college football world, and he's going to be an NFL coach within the next February and March timeframe. And I hate to say it, or maybe I don't hate to say it, but that's a good time for the NFL world. But my question is, Bill Belichick, again, was available last offseason, and what team was looking for a head coach last year that all of a sudden wants to consider Bill Belichick this year? That is a question that we need to analyze next episode. So on that note, that is Manny's fix of 6. JB?
2 things, Manny. One, I don't know why Cleveland would announce this lawsuit they have. They should allow the Browns to move, change the locks on the door, because Deshaun Watson has no idea what's going on. He's at a massage parlor somewhere. Just let him, and just change the locks, and don't even tell him where you went. And then secondly, yeah, I'd be surprised if Bill Belichick ever played it down at UNC. He's 72 years old. But I will say this. I will say this. It is if for some reason Belichick does not sign this contract, or because he's allegedly not signed it yet, if for some reason he wiggles his way out of it, he will be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders next season. He will be. It's the only reason that the Raiders pulled a Jerry Jones and fired Tom Telesco well after they've already fired Antonio Pierce. And so they're going to sit there and say, oh, well, hey, I can't think of one guy out there who likes to be the head coach and run the show. Jerry Jones isn't a head coach. Ooh, but wait, there's somebody out there who can do that. Yeah, this is if in fact Belichick has not signed, and his arm candy has already said that they are committed to UNC. Yeah. But for some reason, if Belichick has not signed it, yes, he will. If he does become a head coach next season, he will be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
And for those people that somehow missed the side story to that, Tom Brady is now part owner of the Raiders. So now Tom Brady will be Bill Belichick's boss, and we'll see how that works whenever Bill Belichick has to take uh, guidance and directions from his former Hall of Fame quarterback.
Which will be
JB?
Tom Brady's other feather to wear, whether I'm the quarterback or minority owner. I'm the reason why Belichick keeps winning. So there you go. Yep.
JB, we're done. We are out of here. Another episode wrapped up. Did you drink something tasteful?
I drank a birthday present I got from a buddy of mine. He got me some Buffalo Trace. So
Happy
that's what
birthday.
I was sipping on this episode. And I was smoking an HP Upman. So for those of you listening, you could probably hear me relighting this several times, which is a pretty good indicator that it is wound too tight, and which means I have to give more output in order to receive something from it. But it's still a good stick. Manny, what were you drinking?
I'm sticking to my brandy, JB. If you like something and you're enjoying it, why change it? I'm still drinking. Let me catch that lighting right there.
The
My
E&J.
E&J brandy. Yes. If I enjoy it and I still have some of it at home, why change my palate? I'm drinking some brandy. I'm enjoying some brandy, and I will continue to drink it until I run out of this bottle. Will that be before the next episode? Yet to be seen. But for now, I'm living my best life drinking some brandy. JB, close us out. Where can people hear us? Where can people find us?
You can watch and listen to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon.
Cheers, everyone. Don't bank on us being on TikTok because you never know what's on the horizon. Until then, cheers.